Welcome, welcome. I don't even know how to begin this. Hey, everybody. This is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure life itself. But we are coming to you, direct on Patreon, or you might find us a little bit later on through the Patreon shop. Maybe one day we put it on YouTube. And so I want to do a general introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Napzok.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and we are excited to watch Rise of Skywalker and maybe say a few things during it.
Maybe say a few things during it. We made this a goal a while ago on Patreon to do a movie watch along. We've done a few of these before. Those are available on our YouTube catalog going back a ways. We've done what did we do, Joseph? We did Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
We did Last
Jedi and A New Hope.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
It's been a bit.
We were trucking back there in 2017, which was, of course, 2 years ago. No,
Yeah.
that math doesn't work.
No, but 2 years after 2017, Rise of Skywalker is released, and we are going to dive in today. You all on Patreon voted for it here. And first, we want to acknowledge that Jennifer Lando was all set to be here, was going to be part of the triumphant of Talking Heads. Life just in the way. She's doing some wonderful things, going back to school. She's talked about it on the show, Joseph. And we're trying to get her in here, but sometimes life, the Force finds a way. Different directions.
Yeah. Sometimes college finds a way, and Rise of Skywalker has to wait until next time. But we're excited to watch it and talk about it and celebrate it here. The two
Celebrate
of us.
it. Indeed, yeah. So we are going to be watching, of course, through Disney Plus. I suppose you'd be watching it through a Blu-ray or something like that. But if you're going to sync along, this is how it's going to go. We're watching from Disney Plus. We'll count down to a press play button here. I think you know how watch-alongs work, and then we'll hang out. Now, we'll say this. We're going live. The ForceCenter live to tape motto that's been around since the beginning, really true here. If someone comes to the door like a delivery guy and one of us has to get it, that's what's going to happen. If one of us wants to go microwave a burrito, that's what's going to happen. Two of us are here. Always two. And always at least one talking, Joseph.
Yes, always at least one talking, and there might be more because the city's supposed to inspect the apartment. So we'll find out.
We'll find out indeed. Well, without further delay, we are going to dive in. I'll be press and play here on this 2 hour and 23 minute and 49-second movie. That includes, of course, end credits, which usually I do stay for in these type of movies. We're beginning. If you're ready, Joseph, I want to make sure you're settled. Okay.
I am ready.
Here we go. Rise of Skywalker in 3, 2, and 1. We're in.
So far, great.
Love
Killing
it.
it.
The logo. Still
Beautiful.
gets you excited. I kind of miss the Disney Plus, faces not showing up.
Yeah, that'd be. Yeah, I think that's going to be a Disney Plus thing, but that'd be amazing if it happens in the theater for Mandalorian and Grogu.
That's a good point.
Different films, I have a stronger forever connection to the first time I saw them.
Yeah.
Like some film, like I only remember a couple details from the first time I saw Revenge of the Sith. Rise of Skywalker, for some reason, I have a really strong relationship to the first time we saw it at El Capitan at like 9 in the morning at a press screening.
Yeah, no, the feelings, the tears, the vibes, the real, the emotions that were coursing through our veins there. And, there's some negative things attached to my memories around the viewing of being tears coming out of down my face as I walk out of the theater, and people already wanting to confront me on it. Friends of mine. How could you like it? Because I did. Look at these tears. These tears.
Yeah. But I remember fondly a butt walking right past me about right now because a couple people had been late. So I had these twin emotions of the dead speak, exclamation point. Love it. My favorite crawl. So pulpy. So good.
Yeah.
Right into the action. Let's go. Let's move. And then a butt. And then back to the joy.
Now you're talking about the crawl. Yeah, I don't know if this is not maybe one of my favorite crawls, but I like what it did. But the pulp is real, and this had me right at this point. I'm like, hold my breath. How are we starting? And the sequence that's about to begin this film was a spectacular answer to that question of how we starting. We're going right in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had speculated that maybe the first act would be sort of like the revelation of Palpatine's spirit being trapped in something and it coming back. And then there was this choice to just get in there. And, as we talk about this, I think we're going to talk about what we love and talk about some of the common criticisms. And one of the common criticisms is that it isn't enough explanation of where Palpatine came from. But I do like that it's a choice to go back to pulpy, fast-moving, More details can wait for later. We want to get in and make it about the action. We want to make it about the characters and what they feel.
Yeah.
And this is such a great. Where's Kylo Ren at?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like he's doing great emotionally.
Yeah. Not doing well. I love this sequence there. It's such
Okay.
it's some pro wrestling moves. He's got a clothesline and a body slam. He's got a lot of things. Now, we did not know at this time, but we know that the Eye of Webbish Bog is missing. I understand why. I think most deleted scenes are deleted for a reason. But I do like picturing off the corner here some weird creature in a bog.
Yeah. I think it's a fascinating creature, been developed in other publishing, but I like that it's so focused because I think everything else we get in the scene is that Kylo has rejected all connection to everybody else. He's committed and he's sad and broken and lonely. And all he wants is to destroy every parental figure the galaxy possibly has to offer. And having taken care of Snoke, wanting Luke to go away, having killed his father, I love his just drive to Palpatine's alive. He's got to go.
Gotta go. Now, speaking of pulp, we are going into the heart of pulp right here.
Yeah, this is, as we've talked about, a little mini horror movie in Star Wars. And it's, the sound design of this, how lightning can sound dry and cracked like your lips when you're wandering through the desert. And that's how lightning sounds. Beautiful, creepy, pulpy mix of just like ancient nightmarish with 1950s mad scientist. Beautiful.
I was going to comment about the size of the statues here, but I forgot that we hear Palpatine right away. And I was so excited at this point. I mean, come on.
So good.
Ian McDiarmid.
Delivery is so great. I say that to myself sometimes when I make food. Of like, my boy, I made pasta.
I like the revelation there, the reveal.
Yeah,
but I got questions. I'm watching this first time, going back to that first view, and I'm screaming in my head like, "What is happening?" We're going right to it.
Yeah, right. I mean that's a pulp color, that sickly green. It's so great. I do have to say, I know even people who like the film might have wanted more explanation, and this might be moving too fast. But I'd also invite people to appreciate the economy of the amount of information we are given, right? That it was Palpatine all along is communicated very quickly, very clearly. Snoke was a puppet. It's Palpatine been whispering in Ben's head. That's what you need to emotionally understand what Ben's going through and what where he's been.
Right. Oh, that's a nerd chill moment for me.
It really is the everything moment. How do you feel about Palpatine's not doing great fingers?
I mean, realistic, if you're at this point in your life, you're at this point in your comeback attempt, it's not going to be going great. Now, and again, I get it. All of a sudden, all these ships are launching, and you're like, who was out here? Who was building these? A lot of logistic questions. I had those too. I still have them. And I know they've been dealing with the answers, and the comic books have explained a little bit more. But you're here. The party started for me.
I get it. And look, I first saw, Star Wars original trilogy when it was in the theaters. And I was doing jokes in, I think, 2016 about where'd the Death Star come from? How'd they get the funding for that? Isn't that a government project? Did they tax people for something called the Death Star? I didn't understand the full story of the Death Star until 2016 and Rogue One started to fill it in. So how did they build these ships and that kind of stuff is for me that's fun for other times.
It's an invitation.
Movies like this. Go ahead.
It's an invitation to a future party. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Thunder rumbling. We got the closed captions on, so now we get to hear and feel the thunder speak.
Yeah. Feel the thunder speak.
Boom. Then we're right into it.
And now, for you, where are you at with the Dejeric? Good to come back to it?
Always. I'm up for a good Dejeric joke. And the fact that we're picking up right where we left off from Force Awakens, which was picking up right where we left off in New Hope, right? That's fun.
I think this is great. Another great example of great economy of writing. We get we very quickly get the sense of the camaraderie between everybody, and that they've been at this for a while. How well they know Chewie and how many games they've played on various missions like this is great world
There's
building.
our guy. There's
Come
our
on.
guy. And I think that's textbook humor right there. A creature with no arms that you're like, get to work. And you don't explain it. Don't need to.
Exactly.
Coming up on here to Bolio, of course.
Yeah. Maybe this whole thing is just going to be like, oh, we love this character, this thing. Dude. Because Bolio is up there.
I didn't pick this as Hamill out right away. It took me a couple viewings or the word getting out, but now I can't unhear it.
No. I think I think the line coming up of "win the war." I just remember thinking like, oh, that's going to be a quote that ForceCenter is going to love. It's
Yep. Speaking of classic Star Wars pulp, you got TIE fighters, you got the Falcon, and you got, oh no, we're not going to make it. I mean, it's all I need sometimes.
Yeah, in a weird pulpy ice thing.
Yes, floating ice planet. Yeah. A floating glacier.
Yeah.
Now look, the not so subtle Finn knows what he's doing in this gunner seat compared to Force Awakens is a little detail I can really love and respect.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, I think Abrams said this in quotes, and I feel it as like a part of coming full circle in the Skywalker saga was I think he's really looking at the original trilogy and the way it prioritizes pulp and serial adventure and keeping it moving.
Yeah. Wonderful. Who doesn't love a good TIE fighter getting destroyed? Shot.
Yeah.
That's a great Chewie reaction.
That's the most like the bleep are you talking about? Chewie reaction. I think we've got.
I think by this film, Giannis had really come into his own as Chewbacca, which is tremendously hard to do because you get the legend of Peter Mayhew obviously hanging over all of it as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, Last Jedi, some of the Porg work is great. but Rey's not here anyways. I love that line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this whole thing with these different colors, the monster, just like all of this is again. I'm going to limit myself. I can maybe only say pulp 3 more times, but it's so what it is, and in celebration of that, the elevated B movie is a part of what Star Wars is.
Yeah. No, indeed. From the light skipping to Rey. First challenge of Leia scene coming up. We'll get to that there, but that was it was kind of hanging over me at this point in the viewing of how are they going to do that.
And the thing I like about this is that great transition from the go of the first 2 scenes to the calm, and also just the clarity that Rey has lots of power.
Yeah.
And now the question is, what is she going to do with it? How does she feel about it?
Yeah. I'm sure we'll continue to address it. They were in such a hard spot, obviously, with the tragedy, the loss of Carrie Fisher. I still think it's a victory for me. And I can't imagine another way at this point. We had talked about recastings, Meryl Streep, Annette Bening. Who knows? But
Meryl Streep, yeah. I think for me, like, I totally get that. Yep, it can sometimes look, that you can tell it's CGI. I think it looks pretty damn great. I love Leia's outfit. But I can get also like, some people have talked about, is there a Mad Lib quality of, that she said that in a different context originally? So I get the criticisms, but for me, it was always really important that the character of Leia be celebrated. And one of the things I was just over the moon about on this first viewing is all of the work this film does to say it's the Skywalker twins. Luke and Leia were the legacy. Luke and Leia were the new hope. It's both of them. And this approach they used with the tragedy of Carrie Fisher to make sure that they were still respecting the legacy of Leia, I think is well worth it for me.
one of the big victories of the movie for me is something. I think you had said it in one of our early reviews of this movie's answering a question that was first sprung on us in 1980, and for my generation, it took a long time to get there, and they addressed that. Love the little flash forward here. Vision.
Building on the connection that they had in The Last Jedi.
This is also a great previously on. That's going on. It is, there.
But it reminds it's them seeing one another's deepest wounds. We got another great bit of compact emotional exposition here. That Rey can tip into anger, and when she does, who gets hurt? Her friends. What a great way to make it this kind of big picture idea of I have power, and that's a frightening responsibility to make it real by I just found all these friends. I just found connection, and I'm afraid if I use my power, they'll get hurt.
Yep. Don't want to hurt them. Like that shot there, you couldn't have done better. I mean,
no.
I think it comes down to if it works for you or it doesn't, and that's sometimes at the end of the day what it is. And I'm someone that it works for.
Yeah, and I think that's just true of kind of all visual effects. Some of them are invisible, some of them aren't entirely invisible, and do you get past them or you don't is just totally up to the individual.
Yeah.
But yes, Master, I think that was my first tear.
Yeah.
Like just a little one, but like just to hear Leia referred to as a Jedi Master, and that love from Rey of this is what I've wanted and needed. Somebody's there for me every day and guiding me, you know? Now I know you love this this energy and this banter here with Poe and Rey. What draws you to it so powerfully?
It is. I got to take it in for a second. Actually, it's so good. You know what? It is something that even I sometimes. I don't want to say is missing from other like Star Wars shows right now, but there's an energy and a humor and a realism and a conflict to it. It is a little bit of Han and Leia. I'm not tying them to any romantic feelings, of course, but just I don't know. There's just something that that's my favorite thing of Empire, right? Is the Han and Leia, the banter, the or even Return of the Jedi. I was born here, you know. You're gonna die here, you know. I just think that's a part of the Star Wars ingredient I love so much. And you know, I hate to say it's missing from other spots. It's not as highlighted as much. There's some great comedy and some great banter, but
there's great comedy. But this particular, like, we love each other, but we're stressed, so we're sniping at each other, is a part of the family story of Star Wars. That goes back to A New Hope with Leia sniping at Han and Luke for like, you call this a rescue, and it's got that vibe of like, we love each other, we would die for each other, but to sit and eat dinner with each other, we are constantly at each other because we're dealing with the stress and we're family, and it's this great poppy vibe again that just goes back to let's go back to the beginning with this. Yeah, here we come.
Here we go. All right, hey, you know. You've all got memes to work with now. We've discussed it before. This is the place to celebrate this film. Is that my favorite line of Star Wars? No. Is it the worst line of Star Wars? Also, no.
Yep. Here's my thing on it these days, Ken. Is like I think it is I think it's a clumsy line, in a line that is not as aware of the meme wants of the real world. Like I think it's a line that should have had, you know, a different spin to it. But I actually love the line. Because here's my opinion of it. I get why people meme it. It underlines the fact that there isn't. It's funny. It underlines the fact that there isn't a clear explanation for Palpatine's return. But people treat it as an exposition line. People treat it as they didn't give us any information about how Palpatine returned. The exposition line is Beaumont Kin's. That's how he returned. Is, you know, secrets only the Sith, dark science secrets only the Sith knew. I love somehow Palpatine returned because it's an emotional line from Poe. Poe is trying to keep the flame of hope alive. He can barely keep these people fed, barely keep the Falcon together, barely keep this hidden. And he's like, when the battle was the most impossible, actually, the most impossible thing happened. It's an emotional line from Poe, not an expositional line for the audience.
I agree, and it's got that sigh in front of it, the sigh of we're trying. But every time we turn the corner, there's something new in our way. And to me, the Beaumont Kin line is up there with Rick Olier's, you know, entire catalog of lines. but it serves a purpose enough for me. Again, either that works for you or it doesn't at times.
Yep. And I fully get it. There's too many people who got bumped out of this movie by not having a more thorough explanation of how Palpatine returned. And, maybe there should have been a flashback between Kylo and Palpatine where he sensed it. I get that is a obstacle to a lot of people for enjoying this film. I respect that. But for me, it's enough that, he's an evil wizard who used mad science and dark magic. And we got the details later.
Only the Sith know.
Yep.
Great theme moments here.
The alone together.
Alone together.
Okay, we're getting through the best hits of all of the major criticisms right away.
It's important to acknowledge them. We understand it. We understand it. We're not in a bubble. We're not in a Rise of Skywalker love bubble. We understand it. I hear it all. I hear it in my personal life more than even on air, or on the Twitter sphere or the Instagram sphere.
Yeah, I think I wish that Rose had a more prominent role or a more clearly defined hero moment where she really got to shine, and this was her contribution to the victory. I absolutely agree with that criticism myself, personally. I don't agree with some of the sort of conspiracy theories of it being malicious. I think it's I think there's a lot of plates to spin, and in my opinion, that plate was dropped, and I think it's not great.
Yep. I accept Chris Terrio's explanation as bad as it came across. I will say I still think his intention of saying, we had some stuff, it didn't work. I would have liked another solution, but I'm with you there. And she has the moment. It's her work that helps with a lot of the takedown the Star Destroyers.
Yeah,
could have been highlighted.
It could have been highlighted, and I just don't believe in any conspiracy theory. I think it was like, we wanted one of these characters to stay back and have some more moments with Leia, and it didn't work. And then we were in a tight spot, and the editor even talked about trying to amp up Rose's role with the footage they had.
Yep.
Still think it's a legitimate criticism for myself, and it's one of my big criticisms of the film. But so it goes.
A little weird thing for me that I love that they do a ton in the sequel trilogy is sunlight coming into the Falcon cockpit. I don't know why I love that. I love it so much.
Well, the Falcon is so often put forth as a beacon of exploration, of hope, of discovery. And just like in that moment, they're all there together. They're up against all the impossible, but they're alone together. They have each other, and the sun's breaking through because it's a positive moment.
There we go. Good old Sith monkey armor. And look, it goes to what you talked about in the beginning. We have done hours of content on ForceCenter. Palpatine's back. He's scared. I need my helmet.
Yeah.
I'm frightened. I need to make sure everyone knows I'm tough.
Yeah. And I think that there's that. I think he is still like afraid of that, of being seen.
Yes.
He wants to shut off all emotion and be the killer who has no remorse and doesn't stop for anything. And I'm sure he feels vulnerable having been seen by Rey.
Yeah,
knowing Palpatine is alive, knowing he's kind of working for him right now. It's a lot to make Kylo vulnerable right now.
It's a 1-2 punch of I found Palps and Rey is feeling what's going on inside of my brain. Give me that mask.
Yeah, Rey's feeling my truth. Yeah, and it's cool, and it's a crime that there aren't more action figures of Kylo's reforged helmet look.
The way Richard E. Grant says 10,000 fold is one of my favorite deliveries.
He's so great. In the child recruitment drop is great. To a lot of, again, efficient world building.
Yes. Still calling her the scavenger. Even though it knows. There's
Okey pokey.
Okey pokey, the cutest little desert rats in the galaxy. All right.
Yep. Coming up on some great jokes and some just great choreography. What do you love about this, Ken?
It's the joy. They turn the corner. 42 years, of course, Star Wars came about 42 years at the point of this movie. We'll say it probably a couple times, but this might be 3PO's best movie.
I think I think it is. I think it
I really
really
think it is.
goes back to the originals of he has a different perspective as a protocol droid, and that
Yeah.
puts him at odds
Yep.
with everyone
It,
else, and they're
it's
getting
up.
comedy from it.
Yeah, it's up there. Certainly with Empire, and certainly with the, I don't, now defending
Yeah.
the original trilogy or something. But to your question, it's these moments. It's the music. It's the vibe. It's Rey getting reminded about this galaxy out here and why she needs to connect with it or save it and or be part of
Yeah.
it. Who's out there and what's at stake?
It
Absolutely love it.
moves it from a just a conceptual good and evil, or they're going to take over planets, to look at this life, look at this community. This is what's being defended. And I love the little bit of storytelling, and again,
Yeah.
being absolutely point on. Where did Rey start in the Force Awakens? What traumatizes her of like
Yeah.
not having these childhood moments? I don't think Uncle Plot sat her down for puppet story time, right? And
Yep.
she's seeing what she wished that she had and wants to make sure that other people get to have. So
Yeah.
just tender and beautiful and on point.
Yeah, and we're getting a setup here for her not having a family name. Get that, love that. But the vibes here in the beginning connect to one of my favorite little Last Jedi moments. Is it's her putting her hand out in the rain, right? And just and Force Awakens. I never thought there's so much green in the galaxy. Just it's not just what she's experiencing in this moment. It's the reminding of what we're doing this for.
Mm-hmm. And
And this, by the way,
this
just damn
dark
cool.
vision then of like from the bright and the colorful to the miserable, you know. And I get. I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but I get people loving Rey from Nowhere. I think it is a great idea, and it's it was a shift and all that. But I feel like when she says I'm just Rey, what is being established is she wants connection. She wants a family name. She's always wanted a family. So I think that's the story that's being told. I understand sometimes that people want a different story, but I feel like the film comes alive if you engage with that's her motivation. She wants connection.
Yeah.
She wants family. Do you still count the days since your parents left? This is so great with them being spot on with one another's wounds, that sort of uncomfortable intimacy that they continue to have of.
Yeah.
And that is a real intimacy, to know exactly what someone is most wounded by.
Love it. Love you can't fully explain the Force in those moments.
Yeah,
Who's
how do you
really
feel?
there? Who's standing where? Yeah.
Yeah, and that their connection is so strong that it can move objects through
Yeah.
space itself. Um, People have concerns about repetition in the sequel trilogy, but I think that's a very bold Lucas-like evolution of, I can see somebody telling Lucas doing that and somebody going, that's not how the Force works. And Lucas goes, I just made it up. And
I just
it
made it up.
does, How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I love a new wrinkle each time out. I think that's kind of Force lightning in 1983 was a what that can happen now, and I just think it's fun to explore it. All right, our first big moment. Okay, and then there's that.
The Cloney puppet. This thing is full of little funny moments that people love.
Look, man, I'm always going to celebrate a happy reunion in Star Wars.
Yeah. And just the pure megawatt charisma of Billy D. Williams.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah.
adds a lot to the heart of this scene.
Yeah. But going back to that comedy moment, okay, is said in my house about once a week still. 5, 6 years.
The whole idea of the wayfinder is,
Yeah.
I'm sure they know there are things, similar in EU and all that, but how do you feel now when you're watching this, and like when we saw it in 2019, these were all new things, but now we know all the backstory of what Lando's talking about from the novel Shadows of the Sith. Ochi of Bastoon is all over the Greg Pak Vader comic. It's so filled in. How do you feel about that now?
Yeah, I think that's part of what we talk about, the tip of the iceberg storytelling. You can get not just answers, but you get the rest of the stories. Like I said, it's an invitation to a party that is yet to be held. And I think that's part of the fun of being a Star Wars fan. And just knowing that Ochi of Bastoon is still a funny, like in a good way, like a funny Star Wars name, but just he was, he was there. He was there the whole time. Not just
Yeah.
Palpatine. Ochi was too.
We were on his trail. Derek of Glendale. What?
Yeah.
Oh, Ochi of Bastoon. Okay.
Now, a lot of the big theme moment stuff here, too. This movie had dealing with a lot of what you were in the past doesn't necessarily mean who you are now. And Lando kind of disconnecting from his hero ways himself. And that's where he is now. And that's not where you have to end up. You still got a purpose, still got something to be.
Yeah, I'm too old and wounded for that, It is a great setup for his triumphant return toward the end of the film. And it also continues the story we've been telling that in the whole sequel trilogy that, coming of age isn't just for 12, 16, 22-year-olds. It's for middle-aged people who've lost their fight, too.
Continues to go. Yeah. Great shot there.
Mm-hmm.
BB-8.
Some of this stuff is like very Clone Wars animated series to me, like as well. Of like that feels like something straight out of the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
it doesn't make doesn't need to make any great practical sense. It's just cool that they have bikes that shoot them into the air and they rocket.
Rocket out. Yep.
It's hit on a playground stuff.
They fly now, indeed. Not everyone played a video game to know that they did already. So sorry.
Yep.
Trailer shots, if I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, 3PO. Thank you.
Yeah, this is all just so Jabba's palace banter, right?
Yes.
The team together.
There you go, BB-8.
Yeah.
I love that too. Who doesn't love a good stormtrooper or a scout hitting something on a fast-moving vehicle?
It's like a very Violet Tony Hawk video game right there. I love it.
It is. Some pod racing energy in this sequence too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also feel like, it's not... It can be easy with Star Wars to get repetitive with the action scenes of like, well, here's another blaster fight where they kind of hide around some corners and stuff. And I do appreciate that there is an effort to have some, like, set pieces.
Yeah. Big set pieces. Love that. I love a good bowcaster in action.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ooh, the intrigue.
Yeah.
And also... we're getting answers.
You're getting answers, too. There's more to Rey's story. And also just to, like, the whole sequel trilogy is kind of about the past and how you deal with it. And your past coming for her.
Yeah. Ouch, babe.
I remember in the theater being so happy for this moment where they sink into the fields because it's so adventure serial from one problem to another. They find a little bit of information from Lando. They're being hunted. Now they're being chased. Now they're, drowning in sand. It's so classic Republic movie serial.
Yeah. No, indeed. And practical for the most part here.
Yeah, I think they're like beads or something.
Yeah, beads. And we get our first hint of Finn having something more to say.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you feel that it was clear to you by the end of the film that Finn wanted to share about his Force sensitivity, or do you feel like that should have had more clarity?
Yeah, no, it was clear. Do I think more clarity would have been an added bonus? Yeah, I get that. That was one of the things I was confronted on the moment I stepped out of my seat. Well, Finn never said. It's like it's pretty clear what he's getting at if you follow along in the story. I think there's some frustration in that.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. You get so close to this, he might be a Jedi, and blah, blah, but I think it was pretty clear. The connection to Leia, like you one of your favorite moments to highlight later on when we get to it, of like when he's talking to Poe, right? Of like, you don't get it like Leia and I do.
I mean, it's intuitive. Yeah, I would have taken him trying to tell Rey at the party and her, nodding and, not necessarily an I know reference, but an I know moment would have been cool.
Yeah.
We passed one of the greatest C-3PO lines ever. No one asked my name, but I'm all right too.
Yes. Now, I want to say here, Rey is using the saber as a little of a flashlight, so I'm going to back. I think we should back off Yord a little bit for using his as a lightsaber.
Is a flashlight. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
And a lot of people were like, Yord pulled that weapon out. Yes, thematically, that's part of the point. But, I would do that too. It's practical. You do it in video games too.
Mm-hmm. And the lightsaber, or the flashlight, whereas his is not powerful, is a funny joke, but it's also underlining what he said back at camp of like, you're our greatest asset. I need you out there in your blazing laser sword,
Yes, 100%. Agree with you. Dun, dun, dun.
And this is also just classic stuff that Star Wars has done a lot over the years of Belly of the Beast, everything from that sort of mythic going underneath and having to pass through something, everything from the trash compactor to the Dagobah tree to the cave in Last Jedi to the basement of Maz Kanata's castle to countless examples in animated shows. Mm-hmm. It's just such a classic motif of down into the darkness of doubt.
Yeah. Into the worm tunnels of doubt.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is some straight up Indiana Jones business with the whole inscribed on there. How do you feel about all that? Is the kind of motivation for this chase?
Yeah, I ended up liking it. It's one of those things where it's like, is it my favorite? No, but I just enjoy the ride, and I'm not worried about when and how, and I know there was a lot of in the production of this film, like, all right, what should it be, and all right, it's a dagger, and what does that mean, and how does that work out? I just have to admit to being less bogged down by that and just being, this exactly what you're talking about. I came out of the theater going, God, they even put in some Indiana Jones elements that I haven't seen in Star Wars in a while. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed the sequence, especially by the time we get to this point.
I mean, I think it's, it is Indiana Jones vibes for sure, but it's also a little bit of Indiana Jones plot of, we don't have the literal map of them flying from here to here, but we sure could have. It's got that galaxy hopping. Mm-hmm. One clue leads to another to give it sort of energy and forward motion. It's a real, plot choice. This might be one of my favorite moments in the entire film. I think the healing stuff is great, and we can talk about that. Mm-hmm. But I think it goes to just exactly what Rey is tortured by. Rey's natural instinct seems to be toward kindness, healing, de-escalation, empathy with those in pain. Mm-hmm. But because she's had lots of tragedy, she has lots of fear, that she also has these impulses to lash out in anger. And just like us in real life, we obsess over our flaws and don't pay attention to maybe what we're doing right. And I love that this film shows us again and again that her instincts are towards kindness and empathy. But once these fears get going and Palpatine and Kylo stoke them, all she can concentrate on is that fear of hurting others and that fear of doing the wrong thing.
Well, it's very clear that you are also bringing in one of the major themes in the movie Pretty Woman of the bad stuff is easier to believe. That's always been the core of this.
Exactly. But this is true. Indiana Jones meets Pretty Woman. That's what we're saying.
It's the whole time. Yeah, no. And look, the giving of the life force, it's this big mystic and mythic kind of thing. But, something we've talked about a lot here. This leads to BB-8 doing it, to D-O. D-O then has information it's needed. It's a simple Star Wars lesson in empathy and compassion, pushing things forward for the better of all.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of the moments that gets me emotional. It's a true Jedi moment.
Built Ford tough with this shot, I will say. It's
really
over
do
the top
feel,
in a delightful way.
It is a music video. It's a car commercial. You know what? I expect the next shot to be Slash from Guns N' Roses playing a ripping guitar solo while a Ford 150 drives by.
Or like, I don't know, I just popped up in my algorithm. It's Michael Bolton in the Lonely Island. This is the story of Captain Jack Sparrow. Like, it's just got those vibes, right?
Yeah. Knights of Ren I really love. I think they do fall into the trap of the in the film of the Star Wars cool. Sometimes there's a heavy like Boba Fett was, like Phasma was, like hell, even Jango we don't get that much time with. Sometimes there's a heavy that doesn't get as much storytelling on screen. And
I've never been, did I think that we're going to have more of them? Sure, it kind of had that vibe in Episode 7, but I mean, 100% true. Last Jedi ended, and I remember someone said, "Oh, they didn't have the Knights around," and I went, "Oh yeah, oh God, you're right. I didn't even miss them." And I'm not saying that if you're a fan of them that you're wrong or anything. It's just like I didn't miss them, but they show up here. I think it made sense here, and I like the way in which they were used.
Yep, I love them. I used to have their names memorized. I don't have them anymore, but
Well,
I
thank
love
God we don't have to do that anymore.
I want to know all their names.
I
This
do
shot
too.
has always been fun to me. It's a little like Chewie got into a Planet of the Apes film.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And look, I'll say, Chewie, head on a swivel, man. Head on a swivel. They're right behind you. This, of course, leading to a trailer moment. And I'll say, sometimes you and I have been vocal about, trailers can kind of sometimes take a little bit of the air out of the stuff. When this happened, you're like, oh, we're going to that moment. I couldn't wait to see it in context. So
Me too, because it cut crucially before the fallout. And like even as we record, there's
Yep.
some acolyte stuff. If we had a cliffhanger, and we know some of the stuff that's going to happen right after the cliffhanger.
Right.
This was, what happens after she leaps was pretty protected.
And one of my worst predictions, and I think I might have made it over in Collider more than ForceCenter, but my prediction was that she was going to leap up and land on the TIE fighter, and they were going to fight in a battle together.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a good prediction. It was a good. What if?
Yeah, I'm glad I was wrong though. But
yeah.
Now,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go to your point.
I was just gonna say, I think I love this breathing heavily, trying to calm. Again, showing that her heart is utterly in the right place. She knows she needs to face him. She knows she needs to go out there and be the sword that defends the galaxy. But she's been hiding, training, because this is frightening. It's frightening in general, and her connection to him is frightening. But she's out there using her amazing skills, taking a deep breath and trying to do it. Such a cool shot.
I just love it because it's totally like an athlete. Like, all right, and a 3 and a 2.
Yeah, and I just love that this is a use of force too, the same way like Anakin's pod racing of just like I'm sensing the timing of this.
Yep. Yo. I'll forever be a fan of the sequence. Just love it.
Absolutely.
And I love his TIE fighter, the wobble. It's one of my favorite little details.
Coming apart like a Cybertruck 4 hours after you bought it. It again, a pretty original action sequence for a Star Wars film. I remember being stoked by this too, because I just want as much Jedi storytelling as possible, where they have massive amounts of power, so we can really get into the question of how do they use it.
Yeah.
Which is what this is about.
Great use of Kylo's theme there.
Mm-hmm.
An underrated theme in this modern era of Star Wars.
I agree.
Can I say something I heard from production rumors?
Sure.
One of those long shots is actually a stand-in that's a lady for Kylo.
Oh, well,
they couldn't go back and get him for reshoots or something like that. That was the stand-in.
Well, I hope
unconfirmed.
I hope the stand-in was wearing heels, like the famous Greedo shot of the Greedo stand-in wearing heels.
Yep. Yeah, unconfirmed from some folks that had told me some stuff, but I always think of that. Look, man, I loved the lightning coming out. Did I believe Chewie was dead here? No, not the point. Because Rey does. That's the point.
Yep, I did not believe that that Chewie was dead. But yeah, again, if people don't like it, that's fine. But I think I feel strongly about it being well constructed, and I think that it's just so on point for. This is exactly her worst fear come true. I used my power to save someone, to not be separated from this family I've found. And by using my power, instead of saving them, I hurt them. It's just spot on to what her fears are. And then from Kylo's perspective, makes sense too, of like, I want you to believe that you're an agent of destruction. So I'll push you. And like, Kylo's got to be so happy. Like, I didn't. Does Kylo think lightning's going to come out? What do you think? Or is he like, damn, that went even better than I thought?
I think a little bit of that. I read it as that, like, oh, crap. And yeah, so again, I don't mean to be snarky towards anyone who has valid criticisms or things, but like, I get that a lot of like, did you really think Chewie was dead? No, of course not. I saw the trailers. No, I know he wasn't dead. But Rey thinks he's dead. The character who has not seen the movie or the trailers thinks he's dead.
Mm-hmm. In this sort of, I think there's been that question too of why couldn't she sense that he was alive right away? It's like, well, because she's in hell. The absolute worst thing possible just happened, and it's her fault.
Yeah, and there's even more, as we go through like the Ahsoka series and Acolyte, where like has some, even Claudia Gray writing about Qui-Gon rebuilding himself to come back to speak to Obi-Wan, that the Force takes some effort, some energy, some concentration. It's not everything all at once,
Yeah, this is one of my favorite discussions on a panel once of people kind of thinking that Jedi just sense everyone everywhere constantly, and having a real fun discussion of like Force users who are close to one another and very powerful sense each other, but it's not like Mace Windu's like, Ki-Adi-Mundi is in the Outer Rim and his tummy's upset,
Yeah. And he lied about his birthday. Yeah, he's not thinking it. Yeah. I love the scene before that. Pablo Hidalgo did a great job in the visual dictionary of pointing out that General Hux also seems to keep reports hidden from his supervisors until he needs the information out. And that's one of those little like fun wrinkles of like, yeah. Maybe that's an explanation, but
yeah.
I love this stuff here. I love that 3PO just can't shut up for his own good. Oop, did I just say that?
Yep. This is great Star Wars world building to me of like that, back in the older Republic days when the Sith were believed, like that was like, yeah, you don't speak that language. Is cool world building.
And at the time of this recording, we're halfway through the Acolyte. I want people watching later on. The answer is probably, I would love a scene where someone tries to read something in a Sith, runic language, and Yord's like, that's illegal. We can't do that.
It would be great. But again, in terms of like plot structure, we're totally at the Indiana Jones went somewhere and got half a clue, and now it leads him to the next half of the clue that's just structurally. So what's going on? It's not just vibe. Structurally, this is a Republic serial quest film.
Somewhere Sean Connery's waiting to say, Alexandretta! Alexandretta!
Yeah, and as fans, both of us, of grumpy middle-aged people trying to hold it together, I love Poe's arc, that he was Force Awakens, so we can do this, and then learn the lesson of I need to keep the spark alive, and trying so hard and just grumping through most of this movie is great.
Yeah. D-O, I'm a fan of D-O.
Mm-hmm.
JJ with his director cameo, of course, but and again, lesson learned. BB-8's like, look, I gave him some juice.
And the no thank you is funny and moving, and I think we've talked about it. I think it's relatable to a lot of people who on different levels have, sensory issues. Maybe that's a big part of your life. Maybe I know I'm in those places sometimes where like my wife wants to give me a hug, and I'm just like, I know you mean it well, but I'm too stressed. I can't, So I love Dio representing what a lot of these characters are going through of wanting connection, wanting empathy, but also being just a little traumatized and skittish.
Sure, absolutely. From that deep note to one of my favorite surface level bits of humor in Star Wars, 3PO in an overcoat.
Right?
It's very Lucasfilm Christmas cardy.
It really is.
Is 3PO dressed up as Santa? Yeah.
It feels like an utter Lucas joke. Yeah, and from going from the Aki having their beautiful festival to a planet that is entirely locked down under, horrible authoritarian rule. So we are reminded of the true stakes of what's being fought for.
Zorii. At the time of this recording, Star Wars Outlaw is still coming out, but the fact that we're going to be able to walk around and explore Kijimi is one of my highlights that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, we've talked about this a ton on Force Center, but yeah, this whole idea that all of our main characters are struggling to move
Mm-hmm.
beyond their past and be seen for who they choose to be now, not who they
Mm-hmm.
were.
Mm-hmm.
Great banter and a theme
Great banter.
statement.
And a theme statement. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy that years later we're still having to deal with little, not changes in canon or retcons, but expanding knowledge we had with Poe's background. Then we did get a novel that explained it, or not. I hate the word explained. Again, it's not explained. Other than Star Wars explained, it's an added bit of information to the story.
And now you know the rest of the story. Yes.
For,
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'll go along with this criticism. I think later on she says ran off to join the Resistance. Yeah, I wish they would have just said ran off to join the Republic, the New Republic fleet, so you didn't have that little what? Like, cool. That would have been great. But I don't.
Yep.
In the big picture, I don't care.
Point made. You know what I mean? Like. See, I love the Knights of Ren and love how they've been expanded in the comics. Really do. I don't need them to be any more than that. And for those that do, fine. I didn't want to have a sit-down conversation with the Knights of Ren in this movie. They are big bruisers, ghouls that show up. Ominous music plays. Hi, Dengar.
Hi, John Williams. I'm Trace. Yeah, no, I agree.
Again, mileage may vary, personal desires may vary. I understand. I don't want to have a sit-down conversation with Keldor or Knife Guy or whatever their names were.
Yeah. Well, Ken, you have a lot to talk about here in this scene, and someone wants to inspect my apartment.
Okay.
Right back.
Go for it. Go for it. There we go. It's just me now, and we can talk about this sequence here. Let's get into it. Speaking of banter, this is why I love Zorii. Just giving Poe the what for. Fascinating character. Kerry Russell doing great work for Behind a Mask. We got the humor of the great Babu Frik. Droid go blank, black. But also highlighting, again, why I think one of the reasons I think this is one of 3PO's finest films is there's cost, there's stake to what he has got going on. There is a choice that is made right here. He's part of the Star Wars team. He's not just the protocol droid who is creating points of friction. He is someone with actual purpose and always has had a purpose. We're hoping Joseph's apartment passed inspection, and you're free to live your life as you need, Joseph. But
I've been kicked out of my home. No, everything's great. So sorry for that, everybody.
No,
this is what happens when you're at home and your office are one and the same.
I ran out of juice. I might need to go get juice. No, I was just talking about too how what I love. We talk about this being one of 3PO's best movies. Is he has some real stakes. He has a choice to make here, and that he's part of the Star Wars team.
Yeah,
not just a protocol droid not wedged in the other movies, but he's not just an obstacle to get over around in some scenes.
He's always been about a lot of his comedy has always come from fear. Why do we have to do this? So the fact that this is a story about him being brave,
yes,
and being inspired by the heroes, it goes along with a lot of what's going on with Luke, being willing to be mythic. He's inspired of all we fought for all this time. I think it's great. And Babu Frik is, of course, great. A great little weirdo.
Yeah. What's her name? Shirley Henderson, right? Wonderful. And those behind the scenes thinks of J.J. Abrams just dying on the set laughing as she's coming up with lines. Love this scene. Now, I'll say this. Do I, a little plot device. Here's a little thing to get you past. Cool. Got it. This scene is just one of the best in the movie. Her revealing her eyes, acting being told, the story's being told through the eyes so much. I just love this scene.
And again, really building toward the victory at the end with the galaxy showing up, showing us the state of the galaxy, showing us what could be lost, what is being lost, and that everywhere in the galaxy, people are like, we're plunging back into that hell we lived through back in the day in the Imperial reign. And it is a plot device in terms of how do they get on the ship, but it's also, they take the time to imbue it with meaning. It's what she was going to use to escape.
Yeah.
And she makes the choice to give it to him to pursue this larger fight. And it's a picture, just like in Andor, of what happens in a horrific authoritarian government where freedom of movement is next to impossible. It's what's going on in Solo. And I think it isn't just a plot device. It's imbued with meaning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I really agree with that take on that there too. And a film that has so many these themes that we discussed about your past and trying to choose to be something different, to have her who knows him, who spent time in the past, and it's like, yeah, what you were in the past has changed and could change, but who's in there is what's valuable to draw upon. It's the antithesis of destroy the past. It's the antithesis of, leave it all behind. Yes, you can change, but who you were and who you want to be could be pulled forward and a reminder of who you can be. I think that's what lots going on with Poe there too.
I agree. I think it's going on with Poe and Rey in these back-to-back scenes where they're both at a real low point. Poe's kind of lost a lot of hope, but he's not going to stop. And Rey, even though she is tormented, naturally just goes, I'll fix a droid. I'll do something kind for a droid. And she's not seeing that side of herself in this moment. She's focusing on this fear.
Now, see, I hope someone's writing that down.
That is definitely the Spaceballs version of this. Yeah. Did anybody write that down?
Yeah.
And the hey.
Yeah.
For me,
comedy.
A great bit of comedy, the contrast between the horror of seeing 3PO with the red eyes and this Satan voice and the, hey, it worked, is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Now, Ken, how are you feeling these days about, I haven't watched the film in a while, I don't know you have. How are you feeling about the pacing? I know we're talking over it, but does it settle into groove for you? Do you feel like it's going 90 in a 70-mile-per-hour zone?
It always does. Solo does as well. It doesn't, and Force Awakens is definitely shorter, so it's going to feel a little less. But even before you and I were recording, we're kind of like, oh, God, 2 hours, 23 minutes. Forgot in a way it's that long. I don't feel it. It moves so well. And I appreciate that. They all move once you're in the story. Last Jedi has some bogged down moments for me that aren't negative moments. It's just like I've seen the movie enough. I get it here. I can move forward. I've always said there's some moments in Empire. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. They're gonna kiss. Got it. All right, let's get to a fight. Like I have those moments. Years ago, our buddy Ben William came on this. We did a top 5 like bathroom breaks Star Wars ranked episodes, which was our way of saying we love these movies, but hey, there's some moments here and there where you can move on. That's fine. It was done tongue in cheek. I don't have that in this film as much.
I literally didn't have it the first time we saw it, and I really needed to go to the bathroom, and it became worse just as Rey starts going across the big waves. But I faced my fear like a Jedi, and there was no bathroom break.
Look, that's tough. The older we get, I wouldn't mind movies being 90 minutes again, but. I'm good with that humor. Look,
and no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I think it's the First Order's fault that they've created a system where a little chip can get you on in your. That's your fault. That's not,
It's also like
that's you.
You know what? I think it is a connection to storytelling threads in Last Jedi too. I'll try to find meaning in every funny joke you make, Ken, of like. But The Last Jedi on Canto Bight is really making it clear that the galaxy is probably going to be fine for you if you're rich. So it's basically a get out of jail free card from an authoritarian government if you got the money for it.
Yep.
Ties to Canto Bight.
I believe that's Danny Harrison, George Harrison's son.
On
the left.
And good comedy for me too. Again, in the spirit of A New Hope, Empire,
totally
Jedi.
And come on, you're shooting cameras down.
Yeah.
while you're escaping and running through hallways.
Yeah.
It's a Star Wars ingredient I enjoy.
Yeah. Another thing I really appreciate about this movie, and I think maybe some people don't like, and I think it's a subjective taste, J.J. Abrams literally physically keeps the camera moving. And to me, it's part of the thing that gives it pace. It makes you feel the urgency that the characters are feeling, the kinetic movement. There's some action scenes here coming up where, like, the camera is swooping along with them, moving almost as fast as they are, trying to take in everything that you would try to take in as you turn your head. And I think it gives a great urgency and makes us feel what they feel.
Yeah. Now, see here. See, this is what I'm saying. Whose ship is this? Well, this is your fault. It's your system.
Did they have one of those get out of jail free rich people cards?
Is this a rich person?
This doesn't look like a rich person's ship. There's some class stuff going on there, too.
This looks like a Volkswagen van. Look, man. Shooting stormtroopers in a hallway, too. I'm all on board here.
Sliding that blaster to Chewie. There's some great shoot-'em-ups. Shot differently. I think there's the Finn's leap over a fallen trooper is coming up that I love.
Yep. And it's one of those things, as you know, as performers, you know, they're just having a lot of fun. This is a day to play. There it is.
Yeah, this was like, we don't have to memorize much dialogue. The camera's swooping around us. Oh. Yeah, no, I'll get to your point of, like, we knew Chewie wasn't dead, but Rey didn't. There's a lot here in the middle that, like, the stakes are raised for the characters. 3PO loses his memory. He makes this great sacrifice. Poe is wounded. That, like, it's not a character straight up dying, but you're feeling what the characters feel of everything's going from bad to worse.
I love the white aesthetic here. It sets up one of my favorite sequences, one of my favorite lightsaber fights in Star Wars. But I just love that Kylo was like, I'll go with the white.
Right?
You got the classic kind of Imperial Star Destroyer or Death Star kind of lighting there, you know?
Yeah, and it isn't like we haven't seen spaces like obviously this is the Stark White is a part of the authoritarian paladin Star Wars, everything from, Orson Krennic's cape to stormtroopers themselves. But it is a different vibe. And I wonder if it's almost it's so Tantive V4 that there's a part of me of if he's like, what? This falls within First Order Empire style guides, but it also reminds me of my mom.
Yeah. I can't separate from my past. Yeah, and this is the secret. This fight, this is one of those things where, like, I put in that category of, sure, maybe this isn't your favorite Star Wars film or blah, 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 whatever, but, like, it's the sonic depth charges of Attack of the Clones. Like, this kind of sequence brings me back. I was always on board with this movie from the beginning. Love it. But, like, it's just like, they fight. They're not really there. The berries go flying over the floor.
Yeah.
Like, I just think
the scattering of the berries is so good. And building on that little moment in Last Jedi, which is a great, elegant, mysterious moment of the water passing between them.
Right.
Which... That moment there from Rey, too, of screaming, I don't want this. I don't want the truth. I don't want to deal with the terror of my past. I know I've talked to some people who feel like that Rey isn't upset enough. I think that's a great moment from Daisy Ridley. She seemed pretty upset to me.
Now we know him as Dathan.
Dathan and Miramir. Yeah.
Dathan and Miramir. Still a little Chad Palpatine to me, but that's fine.
So
Dathan's a good name. It's a good name.
Dathan's solid.
Yeah, just there it is.
Yeah, and look at the way she's fighting. This is the total opposite of who she was with the Vexus snake, who she was with D-O. This is her giving into her fear and anger and just wanting to kill the past like Kylo did. Sorry, I'm just waiting for the berries to spill.
I'm waiting for my gardener to finish up some wonderful work in the backyard.
Yeah, and each space is well designed, but such a great contrast to have severe white and severe dark on Kijimi. So this contrast is sharp. And again, that camera movement, that spinning sensation.
I don't want to go in so deep, but I'm having flashbacks on that great trailer shot of them cutting down what now we know is Vader's helmet and then Rey holding the dagger, and the amount of speculation on that moment.
Thinking they're in
As it should be.
They're fighting Palpatine together, and they're gonna stab the mask that contains his soul, and like
and the dagger that is I forget the name of it that everyone thought it was.
Oh yeah, the dagger of Mortis, the Mortis dagger.
Yeah, the Mortis dagger. Yeah, and as you should speculate, we always say responsibly, but it's fun, part of the fun. But I love looking back 6 years later, and be like, there were think pieces on that.
Mm-hmm. I love that it's Vader's helmet that really, because I think one way to look at the sequel trilogy is it's, Anakin's creation is Vader, his redemption is Anakin, and then the sequel trilogy is still his shadow of,
Yeah. I love that fun moment.
I knew it.
What? I knew it. Yep. Speaking of speculate, remember the 3PO holding all the weapons and everyone over speculating what that could be.
Combined with the red eye, thinking he was just going to go wild with Chewie's vocaster.
3PO, yeah.
3PO
it's a great image. I mean, this is a great image.
Yeah, and a great action figure.
Yeah, and then Hux just being someone who ain't here for the cause, man. For himself.
A great comedy beat here, and a great meaning beat of the choosing the leg instead.
And Hux being from step one for me, just a example of the emptiness of rage, the emptiness of vengeance, the emptiness of the quest for power.
Yeah, on to the end. That line is the opposite of Rose's great encapsulation of, don't fight what you hate, say what you love. And he is the opposite. And I think it isn't about anything great philosophically. He's been tortured by Kylo Ren for a year, and vengeance is what he cares about the most. I think it's crystal clear and a great point of how some of us are sometimes.
I'll just point out it's a line from the villain.
You have his power it's hard, right? Yeah. But it's a villain saying a bad thing to hurt a nice person's feelings.
It's not the point of view of the film.
Yes. I also don't agree that Orc Goldfinger should own all gold in the world. That's not the message of the film Goldfinger to me. No, it is really important to me because it goes to Kylo's wound. Kylo needs to believe that his fate was sealed by his past. As much as he wanted to kill it, now he's given into it. Like, I tried to fight it, and I can't. This is who I am, and I just don't want to be alone. So I'm going to try to make you feel like you have no choice either. You aren't defined by yourself and your choices. In the great way you treat the Vexus and D-O and your friends, you're defined by... this withered old evil wizard you've never met. And it's a lie. Another great, cool action shot that's a little bit different. And I think that scene has, without being too on the nose, it really does remind me of Luke and Vader on Bespin. Luke feeling like he has nowhere to go, and the bad guy saying, you have no choice, your fate is decided.
Of all the controversies in the movie, I think this is not one of the bigger ones. I know there's some people who wanted more of Hux, and I could agree with that. I just love that ending. Again, I don't want anything else for Hux. This is what he gets.
I love what happens. I'll say this: I would have taken like a moment of a shot up of his face to have just like a moment for it to sink in and be like, and this is where that vengeance above all else leads you. I think a moment to let that sink in.
Yeah,
I would take that.
totally. Yeah, yeah. A little bit of the, a Dooku and Revenge of the Sith moment. What? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I don't ever mean to say that to take away anyone's thoughts on it. It's just like I don't have a better solution for Hux. I don't. That's where it all ends for me.
To me, it's about, I was going to say execution, which is terrible because he was just executed. It's about how his execution is executed. I love the choice he makes. It's entirely believable to me. But I would have wanted just like a second more to sit with that beat.
A little beat. Totally.
I really like the pulse of the film. And every once in a while, there are little scenes that, in my totally subjective opinion, I would have taken just a beat to breathe. That's when I would have taken just a beat to breathe.
Jannah arrives to our story.
Yeah. Falcons.
Something I loved. Yeah, something I loved about the crash crater, the drag there. I don't know.
It's just how things are going for them.
It's the poor Falcon too.
It's the poor Falcon. Like this is the part of the Indiana Jones movie where the giant bruiser is just kicking his ass, right?
Just punching him.
Just nothing's going their way.
The image of the Death Star, second Death Star. Still love it.
Mm-hmm.
Bad place from an old war.
The bad place from an old war. Yeah, once again, they're all trying to move into the future and define themselves. And because of the machinations of someone like Palpatine, they keep being drawn back into the past.
I also think it's a great Led Zeppelin title from about 74. Bad place from an old war.
A bad place from an old war, yep. In a Bonham drum solo. Now I think this speaks to J.J. Abrams as a filmmaker. I understand that for some people, the logic might be a little too twisty of when was this knife made, blah, blah, blah. When did Palpatine give it to Ochi, blah, blah, blah. But that's such great visual storytelling. And I think Abrams is such a film nerd and a film geek at heart that his instinct is to tell with visuals, not too much language.
Yeah.
And it's a cool visual, I think.
I think this whole sequence and the waves, everything about it, yeah.
More weird horses in Star Wars. Who doesn't like that?
Big fan of the Orbox.
Yep. And D-O once again being friendly, but having boundaries. Who among us does not want to be friendly but have boundaries? Yeah, great 3PO banter that also has that great "how we doing?" And same as always, that bad vibe. So many great layers to this of Finn discovering that he is not alone, that he is not the only one, and not being defined by your past, of being informed by it, but not entirely defined by it with this First Order connection.
Another battle we have not learned yet that I will one day probably, see in a board game or something.
Yeah, maybe Lando was there too. What is your take these days on what Jannah's talking about? Because we know Finn is force sensitive. We know he's particularly intuitive. But she says it was a feeling for her and her entire crew. Do you feel like that is a picture of them being quote unquote force sensitive? Or do you just feel like that's a picture of the force touches all of us and it's an instinct?
Yep. I really believe that is this feeling. And it ties to everyone's favorite Qui-Gon quote from Master and Apprentice about going to the light side because the light side's there. It makes me think of Yoda, crude matter all around us. And some of the stuff at play, even in this film, Last Jedi, or stuff that's going on in the Acolyte, or Ahsoka and Sabine exploring it in a very direct way. And I really have always taken it as that. And even Finn's journey with the Force being this feeling and tracing it back to the beginning of everything that's going on, where he doesn't want to shoot the villager. It doesn't mean, haha, he's a Jedi. It means this isn't right. It's not natural. Yeah. And this is a very big Star Wars commentary on just, I think, life in general. That's how I take it. It doesn't need to be a trading card stat.
Yeah, to me it isn't. To me, it's back to the Force is the way that the analogy of the Force has affected me in my life, of learning to play the drums and knowing like I need to count, but I also need to feel that it's an instinct. Or when you do something that you know might hurt someone else, you've got this little voice in your head that's trying to pull you away from it. And you know, the Force just is intuition, is kindness, is empathy. I really like that.
See, yeah. Yep. I love that moment. I think it's all good. Good. Not just banter. It's the back and forth energy of brothers in dispute.
Yeah, and it's everybody trying to hold it together on this desperate last stand adventure. And Poe trying to be a good leader, and he wants to be the leader that Leia wants him to be. And Poe and his very kind friend Finn just told him, "You ain't measuring up, dude."
Yeah, with one of Finn's big goals, you know, being this keeping everyone connected, the string in the middle, holding it all together, and Poe being a challenge to that here. Love the sound design here. This is covered in detail in the Director and the Jedi doc and some other material. Just the sound design is some of my favorites in here. The grunting of a dying and dead Death Star.
Yeah, and again, taking these kind of once you're really willing to engage with them, kind of, I think, very clear ideas of the sequel trilogy about the past, and making it a cool set piece of we are trying to get to the future, and so we have to we're literally lost in a maze of wreckage of the past. You know, hey, look, I do this every morning.
This is you getting
try to crawl through the wreckage of the past, of the various damages and regrets and failures and things my grandma did that passed to my mom, that passed to me. It's really evocative, I think, when you let it in.
Yeah, look, and there's a connection to where we first meet Rey, her climbing through the Star Destroyers, and Force Awakens being a movie that deals with the literal legacy of this franchise hanging over us as fans and the stories over the characters. It's part of what 7, 8, 9 deal with, and it's very literal, as he said. We're going into the past here. Great shot. Love this shot right here.
It's a beautiful shot. Yeah, she grew up in a graveyard of this war and has to come back now to this ultimate place in it. And all of that is more important to me than how big can a piece of wreckage from the Death Star 2 be.
And I have wonderful headcanon of what we don't see in Return of the Jedi. Remember when Moff Jerjerrod turns around and goes back to the shuttle? I think he has to get this stuff off the shuttle and put it in the closet here. I think part of his duty is we got to build Palpatine's little nook of Sith toys.
Yeah, that shot in Return of the Jedi where he's consulting with the Imperial Sith dignitaries. I bet they're discussing the display. Like, where do you think we should hang this artifact? Would that look good on, you know, the mirror of Darth Bucus? Where should we hang that? You know.
Yeah, Moff Tion Gerard. We have the Sith Wayfinder. We're just uploading information on it right now. We're gonna put it here. Speaking of caves and pasts and visions of the future.
Yep, and having to face yourself.
Dark Rey, the subset of fans that were living for this to be the real version of her, which is great. I get it.
Yep, and there's this mirror shot.
Yeah.
And the hiss. And don't be afraid of who you are. The sort of exactly what Rey is saying is everybody's telling me who I am. And here's this visual manifestation of her telling herself her greatest fear, your darkness. Yeah,
man, never be afraid to be who you are. It's a pretty powerful theme here, and I love how it's played out.
Mm-hmm. In the positive version of it that Leia's saying, and the dark version of it that,
Yes.
that Rey is thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh, I love that shot. That's just one of my favorites.
I love what's going on with Kylo, and I love that this intimacy right here of you can't go back to her now, just like I can't. It's been swirling the whole sequel trilogy, but it connects Last Jedi when he can't fire on Leia. Of the like, I can convince myself Luke's a villain. I can convince myself my dad Han's a villain. I can be mean to Chewie. Even I can't lie to myself about how wonderful my mom is. I just have to run from it. And maybe I did all this because I don't want to come back and see the disappointment in her eyes. Oh!
Mm-hmm. Rage.
Yeah.
And, look, I get it. Last Jedi had some different kind of lightsaber fighting. So here you go. Just a bunch of great lightsaber fighting coming your way.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a very different kind of fight here.
Mm-hmm. And visually, one of my favorites, too. Just the water and the ruins.
Yeah. And I think, we saw in Empire Strikes Back, Luke having a lightsaber fight where he kind of misunderstood the stakes of the fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't quite that same thing where he was just sort of, poor Rey is having her darkest moment and she's just lashing out in rage. And it's a fascinating fight to watch our hero, who's ultimately going to make the right choice and a good choice, to just be broken enough to just, this is like an Office Space when they take the printer out to the field, smash the printer. She's just at that rage moment,
Die, mother trucker, die. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Boom.
It's still her instinct to keep her friends safe.
As someone who's not a fan of ocean water, this is a trying scene for me, but I love it. The visual here is just come on.
Yeah, this is a scene where I really started to have to go to the bathroom. But besides that,
an hour left. Yeah.
It's been so much great water imagery in the sequel trilogy, and I always like water as something that can be coded as womb-like, amniotic, comforting, going home, soothing, or like this mysterious destructive force that will overwhelm you. And I like seeing the version of water as this destructive, swelling rage.
An ocean of rage.
But I love her little pull away there, and throughout this film, it's what I want to see of like Force users who have massive power and they can do superhero stuff. I don't care that it's a superhero leap. I love that shot of him just walking through, just unyielding. And when you make them real powerful, then everything is about the choices, and I love that.
Love the backward grip there, the slashing he's doing.
Yeah, and the force stopping of the blades is talk about something that has now just become a part of the language of lightsaber fighting.
Look, it's been celebrated many times, but what Adam Driver brings to this franchise is something I'll be forever grateful for too. Some of the best work, and his. Only I do the fighting because I control the character's every movement because it's mine to explore. I love.
Yeah,
I know there's some stunt folks, but
yeah, there's a lot about the work that went into this fight. Now, why do you feel like? I mean, Rey is beaten down by his barrage, even though she is full of rage. How do you feel about that? Why do you think that happens?
That Rey's on the losing end?
Yeah.
I just think it's not her true self. She's lost focus. She's, you're not being who you need to be in that moment. So when you can't control the fight, so to speak, control what you're doing, you've lost.
Yeah. I agree. I think we often see people succeed more when they tap into the dark side. And I think for Rey, it's not who she.
It all leads to this. That's not who she wants to be, like you said.
Not who she wants to be. And I, from Kylo's perspective, from everything we set up, of he couldn't go back to Leia, and Leia, coming to him in the Force. And I always pictured of just being like, the person you thought could never love you again wrapping you in the biggest hug, and that just stopping him in his tracks, her kind of, some level of force projecting. I think Pablo Hidalgo has played with it. I don't really care about the super details. For me, it's about the emotion of it. And this great ultimate, that tracking so well through the film of Rey hurting BB-8, failing Chewie, and now failing Leia, and then also failing
Kylo,
failing Ben. Yeah.
Yeah. The weird random flashback. Remember this coming the same week as Grogu healing Grief Karga.
And I remember we had to cover that episode of Mandalorian, and we had seen Rise of Skywalker, but it hadn't come out yet, so we had to talk about the Force healing, remembering not to say it's also a massive part of Rise of Skywalker. This is just phenomenal acting from both of them. Just the amount of meaning and like, oh my God, the tentative. Is it okay? Can we be? Are we safe with one another?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think there's a wonderful economy. I did want to take your hand, Ben's hand.
Yeah.
Doesn't need a big speech about. I saw your soul. I saw the man you could be if you made better choices. It was just like, I see you. I care about you. I couldn't be with someone who is making the choices that you are. But if you can ever make a different choice.
Yeah.
It's all that said in a real minimal stylized mythic way.
Yeah. And it makes you think of her yelling Ben in The Last Jedi throne room sequence and Ben not being there. Kylo returns at that moment. We talk often about how this movie moved us. I was definitely moved here, but tears weren't flowing. It really does eventually get back to Chewie here.
Oh my God! Yes.
I was holding because we'd processed some of the real world loss with Carrie Fisher, the Lara Dacey cried, but Jonas hitting it out of the park here with an emotional home run.
Yeah. Yeah, to see Chewie finally break.
Yeah.
And the cutaway here, and like doesn't even want to be hugged. Oh my God. We didn't get a chance to talk up much at the top. I love Agent Kloss for being this beautiful flowing organic place. Also, that shot and this scene coming up, some of the best in Star Wars for me.
Yeah. Just talking about first viewings of it. Like I couldn't believe it.
It's so
made sense. Everything, it was like, but couldn't believe it.
Yeah, the bridge reprise, how it could have gone, so powerful.
It's something that he's replayed over and over in his head. Again, man, Harrison ain't gonna come back unless Harrison feels you need to come back.
Yeah, I think like the interview quote was JJ said he needed me, and I saw the scene. It's like, yeah, he does. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there for my fictional boy, Adam Driver, and for this story.
Yeah, the cheek touch of compassion that was a ForceCenter favorite. Something I remember you celebrating early on, 2015.
Well, I kept feeling like it was going to come back. Like it was such a great moment and such a victory of Han to get past any sort of fear and say, there's nothing you can ever do, son, that will make me stop loving you. And hoping that came around to make a difference. And yeah. And this is a great direct reuse of the line, and it relates to all of Rey's choices too. Of it takes more strength to make yourself vulnerable, to use the light side, than to give into the rage. And there we go with that cheek touch just a moment ago. And remembering, I really like that he is remembering that and really thinking, what would he say if he were here now? That little
Great.
space
I mean,
between
God.
Dad and I know in the theater, it felt like a million years, and I was saying to myself, but not out loud, say it, say it, say it.
Say it. Say it. Just that's
Just beautiful.
Top 5 scene, I think, for me.
Another beat in there I really like is Ben saying it's too late, she's gone, and Han saying what she stood for, what she fought for, which is this reminder that there are things in the past that are worth holding on to, like the memory of your loving parent and the things they fought for.
Yeah.
Is this vanity that he decided to zoom in on his head so nobody had to see his dangly body and weird fingers?
I don't want them to see my fingers.
Yeah.
Go in closer.
Now, I understand that the movie's moving fast and maybe there's some confusion and maybe it could have been more clear. But this is such a great celebration of Leia and such a great victory of Palpatine's plan was, I don't need that granddaughter. I've been grooming this Skywalker boy to take my revenge for years. And I got my plan. He's fallen for it. Everything's lining up. Going to use him to get rid of this Jedi threat that's Rey. And Leia ruined it all by telling him she loved him no matter what.
You know, the legacy of the Death Star tech just hangs over everything, and I'm not okay with the result, but I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with that. Let's use that tech. I don't know. For me, that's like there's a level of accuracy to it when did Palpatine and the First Order are like, well, Death Star didn't work. We'll make a bigger Death Star. We'll make a whole planet that is a Death Star. That didn't work. We'll put a bunch of Death Star guns on every ship. It's just all that, like, there is this kind of sad simplicity to evil.
Well, it's an advancement of technology too, right? It's like a VHS camcorder, and now it's on your phone. It's actually more powerful, but it's more compact.
It's like they're basically just ships with better, higher pixel cameras, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, one of our favorite scenes here collectively. One that Oscar Isaac kind of had asked for in a way.
And I think he was right to. He needed to have that clarification of his moment of doubt, and he's trying to step up and be the leader, and he doesn't know how.
Yeah, and it's direct, like a good myth.
And I think it ties back to Lando's line of like telling everybody to have faith that Han will find some way to bring that shield down on Endor. It can be a little hand wavy, but also at the same time, it's a direct connection to Lando didn't give in to fear. He believed in Han.
General, doctor,
general, lawyer.
I like that moment too.
Yeah.
Cone face? No, dear. Don't be mean.
I think there's also just a great thing in that scene of no one's ever ready. You train and then you have to go do. It goes to what we've been talking about a lot of, like, what age is Star Wars for is like, it's not just for coming of age. It's you get to when you're supposed to be an adult and you're like, wait, why don't I know everything? You don't, and you never do.
Gotta have the porks there. I am very happy that the porks are there.
Love the hood up.
Yeah.
And I love her instinct to be, Luke was right. No matter what you do, you end up causing pain. So I'm going to run away from it all. And Luke getting to say, I was wrong. I should not have done that.
Yeah. I don't think we have the time to get into that line and the misreading of it. I just want to celebrate the scene.
We'll just say I don't think it is a refutation. I think it is a continuation of him choosing to force project to Crate at the end of Last Jedi with that very weapon in his hand because he recognizes it's a symbol of hope and a symbol of the Jedi continuing.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, I will say, I do think my problem with this scene is, look, we could have just made a choice about his hand with the metal hand. He keeps it hidden the whole time, so just like a let's just not deal with.
Let's just not
Is
deal
it
with
human? Is it glove? Does he force project the metal hand?
Okay.
There's just let's not talk about it.
Look, I would have accepted that it is just his hand. We did it returns.
Yeah.
The Force let him rebuild it. Yeah.
A glove. Let there be mystery.
Yeah.
Just have a glove.
Yep. But yeah, it's funny.
No, I love every line, every beat in the scene. It maybe could have slowed down just a little bit for me because every idea is sort of
Big,
rich and powerful. And seeing Leia's saber.
It's a great design. It's a great design. All that smoke, visually, just a great sequence here.
Mm-hmm. And I love learning that they were on Agent Kloss. Nice Dagobah, as it's joked about in one of the books.
Yeah. Yep. We have not got that figure yet, right?
That's my only problem with that scene, that we haven't got either of those figures, which is bonkers to me.
Oh, the toy industry and the changes it's gone through.
That line from the trailer is that kid. It's so on point about what the sequel is about. Of like, take the good things from the past, but it's your fight. It's a generational story, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, I think the Wayfinder would have still been hot. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
She could have taken his Force Spirit glove that he used to cover his Force Spirit robot hand. We can talk about this scene, but also just show it out there. Facing fear is the destiny of a Jedi is hands down one of my favorite. Metal, hands down, one of my favorite lines in Star Wars.
Yeah,
it's just so true to the myth of the Jedi and true to the tale that we can learn from it and apply to our own lives.
Bringing a little Yoda's themed Dagobah vibes in here for I think a great purpose. I know this particular moment was well debated out there. A lot of think pieces to take in if you want, but I think it's a conclusion of that part of beginning of Luke's journey to where he is now.
Mm-hmm. And hey, did she put the door back on from the wing? Like, okay, fine. Yeah, I mean, I think, there's a whole discussion on the behind the scenes about using Yoda's theme, and is it too on the nose? But I kind of feel like, there's a lot in this film that's new, as we've been noting, or fresh, or twists. It's also the final film in a 9-movie saga, and I think for me, I want some reflection on where we have been and how far the characters have come, and that's a finale beat for Luke, and it connects to Last Jedi, where the X-wing was this: I have rejected taking flight as a hero, and I've sunk that under the waves, and him saying, "Nope, go take flight."
Yeah. And I really like what you're saying, that it is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sound like Sesame Street, but there's some things that we're pulling forward from the rest of those movies.
Mm-hmm. And it's meaningful, and it isn't just a do you remember to me. It's a direct connection to The Last Jedi and saying, I was wrong. It was fear that kept me on this island.
Yeah. I do like that there's still files on that. That's Ken's Camry. He got rid of it a long time ago.
Do you think it's legendary, or do you just think there's like Great Galactic DMV where they're like?
I think it's Great Galactic DMV. That's my headcanon.
Yeah.
That's Garvin Dave Drace's X-wing in pieces now, but it's still a wing.
See, I think Luke's X-wing is a little bit more legendary than this. Is a tiny piece of Garvin Dave Drace's exploded X-wing. But
fair enough.
There, controversy on ForceCenter. We disagree. This shot needed more close-ups of the big furry blue weirdo.
Well, remember, we were all focusing on the big blue furry weirdo, and in the trailers, and did not see Mads Kanata.
Oh, yeah.
In the trailer speculation. Claude.
Yep.
Look, a lot of speculation of what the Rey movie will be about and who will be in it. I think Claude should be considered.
I think Claude should be force sensitive, and I want to see him leaping about. I think this speech coming up is one that often gets me about, what our fathers and mothers fought for. We won't let die. Again, the sequel trilogy has taken us through all the fear of the past,
right,
and now it's taken us through the hope of building on what was good in the past.
Yeah. I enjoy a good getting ready sequence where everyone's just running. I enjoy it in all movies.
Somebody's looking for their keys.
Now there's the controversial A-wing snap A-wing versus X-wing thing.
Yep. Well, maybe he was just helping somebody else start their fighter. I think he was
helping. Yeah.
You know what? In the Tantive 4 taking off.
Yeah.
Because they've taken enough of us always reads to me of like that connection with Jannah and being child soldiers in an additional kind of fist pumpy moment there.
Lock S foils.
Yep.
And look, I'm a sucker for seeing Rey in an X-wing with an X-wing helmet on, Luke's, and going back to Force Awakens with the Tirfan Aces helmet she wears, and I think it's great.
Yeah, when it was dreamy. Yeah, and this is just a great, I've got two left. A great pulpy image, but also a great, image of authoritarian, right? Of just the repetition of all those ships of death all in a line.
Going into the pit of despair. Long dark tea time of the soul. One of my favorite designs about this they've discussed, and it's been in the books too, of making sure the statues were supersized to dwarf anyone who walks in.
Yeah, it's a lot of great stuff going on in that speech already about we're going to do this together. They've got a plan that involves multiple parts and having faith in everybody coming together on their part of the plan. I think one thing that is sometimes maybe lost in the back and forth between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker is it's the dark middle chapter and the hopeful final chapter. It is Empire and Jedi, and I think a lot of these ideas in Rise of Skywalker they're blatant, they're simple. There's more of us, we're stronger together. Concentrate on empathy, not hate. But it all feels very George Lucas to me, and very connected to A New Hope, when those ideas of what is good and what is right are simple and direct.
Yeah, it's all boils down to that. A lot of our choices in life.
And back to these great motifs of going down into the depths and having to face your fear of Rey walking through there going, is this where I come from? Is this who I'm defined by? Or do I hold on to that hope and that love and that connection that I found with my family, with the Skywalkers, with Finn, with even Ben? Do I hold on to that, or do I give into this fear? Let me go down into the darkness and test that I can do what a Jedi does, which is hold on to the hope.
Oh, look, I think you should have done that from the start, but that's just me. I'm not here to criticize Final Order.
Look, there are a bunch of Admiral Ozels in here.
Nope.
Love the way the music drops out a little bit there for the feeling. And we've talked about it many places, but I do love that Finn's using the Force all the damn time in this movie in making heroic choices. It's just he's using it in an intuitive way, not a Force pushing way. That's a huge use of the Force in his connection to it that helps save the day.
I don't know what it was upon seeing it. I love this shot. It's celebrated for a lot of reasons. In and out of the story. BB-8 being there, running around. It's great. It's one of those emotional moments when we're in the first couple of viewings where, I don't know, seeing horses running on a Star Destroyer. It's like, this is what I needed in this moment in my life, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so the organic versus mechanical battle of Star Wars. It's Luke trusting his instincts, not a targeting computer. It's that they could never imagine natural creatures working, in sync are a threat to their big mechanical monster. It's all those things. And just some great Western vibes of like the cavalry's here.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, just a nice, comfortable lightning bolt place.
It's a place to hang out with a few of your favorite cultists.
Yeah. I want to know what an average Tuesday's like here.
Come on, Omen harness. Show me that throne, that Omen harness. Going to classic designs, right? That were considered for Empire.
Yep. I remember in the early days wondering, first couple screenings before we had any materials to tell us otherwise, wondering, are those people really there? Is it an image, a vision? Is it magic? I think I've settled on they're all there and they've been waiting.
Long have I waited. Look, Love it.
This is the man that turned power and limited power into one of the greatest Lance and Stars. Just to see him work.
Yeah, the Empress Palpatine, the pushing on all of her fears and her buttons, but I just love that, like, hey, maybe I can convince her real quick that I am a nice grandpa and, like, reach into my pocket and get out a Werther's Original. I'm so happy my grandchild has come home. So funny to me. My wife and I always enjoy that line. That no.
I mean, it's the tubes with the liquid being pumped into
the blackened lips. Yeah, it's so horrific. And as we've talked about, like, there's some lines that are really hard out of context because it is the men telling this woman that her power isn't her own, that her choices aren't her own, but it's the villains trying to take her agency away. And that scene is so about it, of like, hey, just kill me. It's what you want. And then I'll take over your body. It's awful. It's horrible. And we should think it's horrible because it's what an evil space wizard wants. And it's what Rey finds the strength to reject.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Has some real world connotations. Previous generation trying to control a young woman coming up and her choices. It's all there. And also just, the big theme of you so don't want to let go that you don't realize that you've got to pass this on versus Luke and Leia in this film as well.
Yeah, no, this is your fight. It's we will be one.
It's still mine.
Yeah, and I think in the novelization, a little bit more of a, it's a little bit more on the nose, but I think this does tie to Finn's choice in The Last Jedi, where he had become committed to the cause, but he's gonna throw his life away in
Mhm.
kind of a pointless way. And
Mhm.
this is where he's like, I know what I'm fighting for. I know why I'm making this choice. It's
Yeah.
really growth.
At a good time to shout out that novelization. It's spectacular. I really love that.
Hmm.
It's one of my favorite adaptations of a movie in the Star
Shout
Wars
out
world.
to Johnny Williams bringing in a little bit of that Duel of the Fates vibe here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's that's the key line. I think there was some understandable confusion of, wait a minute, she's going there to destroy him, which is what he wants. So what's the problem? But I think
Hmm.
that is lost in the conversation. It's about how you fight, and not with hate.
Yeah, she's there to defend people from the Sith.
Yeah, and we'll bring it back in the final moments too of even how
Hmm.
she ends up defeating him.
Hmm. And all of this just plays, yeah, it plays into everything that has been uh, built up. That her fear of loss, her fear of her loss of friends. Palpatine's going to put a finger on that of like, you brought them
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes from no one's coming to
Mm-hmm.
help them. Yep. There we go. You
Oh
are the
man,
one who led them here.
you did this.
He's like, remember when you hurt BB-8? Remember when you
Mm-hmm.
almost got Chewie killed? Remember when you hurt Leia? And like, that's who you are. That's what you're gonna do. So just give in to that fear and anger.
Yeah, and the Palpatine's got the playbook of, all I have to do is no change, no adaptation. I'm going to open up a window. I'm going to make you feel guilty for what's happening to your friends,
Hmm. Yep.
and it doesn't work.
And I get that there are similarities here to Return of the Jedi of
Sure.
Palpatine running the same playbook that he ran on Luke. But there's enough new going on here with everything that's going on with Ben and Rey and the dyad, and it's a different version of Palpatine to have him like this is his stadium tour.
Yeah.
We've only
This
seen like
is-
his radio shows, right? He's
Yeah, yeah.
or his one-on-ones, and this
We
is his
saw
stadium tour to
he
the
was
whole
playing. Yeah, he was playing clubs in colleges. Now he's filling out Madison Square Garden here.
with evil.
And again, the purpose of the sacrifice, like you said, versus
Hmm.
reckless abandon that was present before.
And I think there could have been something a little bit more there to connect it to Finn and Rose's moment in The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
would have taken that, but I also feel it. You know,
Yeah.
gosh, I love his weird harness.
Mm-hmm.
The
There
Sith
we go.
troopers and his
Love it.
guards are also awesome. And
Yeah. Yeah.
more action figures, please. There's some of the Sith troopers, but not enough.
Not enough.
Heading into a sequence of some of the coolest moments chained together in a Star War, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Ooh.
Love that it's building on the
Ooh.
lore that there is this Sith tradition and ritual, and it's a real ritual,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
This is his Eras tour. He's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Milking it. I mean, he's been waiting for decades for this.
yeah, he's had a lot of time to stew hanging there.
I've been living in test tubes and broken bodies.
And then do you go with the anger or do you trust
Yeah.
the connection? And
Yeah.
so many
Well-
moments where people are given exactly what they need and it's just somebody else caring. And that's what this is to me.
Yeah.
It's just, he's here and he cares. I'm not alone in this.
Yeah. And then, as you pointed out before, in the first two films, they've been fighting over this blade, and here she is. It's yours.
Handing it to him with utter trust.
Yep.
He has, there's a lot in this
Yep.
film about some very like kind of samurai language about
Mm-hmm.
giving
There
your,
it is.
I relinquish my saber, right?
Yeah.
And her giving it to him, that great shrug that I was talking over like a
Mhm.
fool.
No, then we got what I call the rock orchestra version of the Rey theme here.
Love it. Yeah. And I know that his only line of dialogue is the little ow, which again is like, this is just really about visual storytelling. It's about acting. It's about not needing a ton of dialogue.
He didn't need it. Yeah. He didn't need it. Adam Driver does not need it.
Yeah, I mean, that pains me to say as a writer who loves dialogue, but Adam Driver didn't need any dialogue.
Yeah.
And this swooping shot that's coming up, the way the camera flips around them and they both raise the blades together, just drives home that, two are better than one theme. Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah, him. Oh, you think you're connected? You think you're connected?
Yep. Force heal, force steal. Yep.
Yeah. Oh. Ooh.
Oh.
Oh. Which means we could at some point see it again. We could go back generations before.
We might see it again. Yeah, and I love he's playing all these games with Rey. He's lying to her about my grandchild will rule together as one, and then it's like, nah, actually,
no.
And we're building up to the one true emperor, and that's that simple contrast between the selfishness of the one and the power of the many.
Yep. JJ, why you got to kill your own friend like that? Still one of my favorite moments. Not the death of Snap, but JJ's like, hey, Greg, I'm bringing you back. I'm killing you.
Somebody, I thought he was going to go because I felt like somebody's got to go.
Someone's got
to amp up the stakes. And Snap. Somewhere Mr. Bones is mourning.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Bones. Yeah, love it. Hot damn,
Star Wars theme and the escalation back up. And in great encapsulation of Poe's journey, he's been trying to keep the spark alive until it becomes a flame. And right at his lowest, bam, it becomes a flame. Another moment of somebody being provided what they deeply need to continue on their journey of hope and light.
The great Lando laugh. No one understood. While a lot of us were cheering an old guy, to be clear, a lot of people did. But I was in some public screenings. I saw it about a week later in Arizona, I think, and people didn't pick it up. That's fine.
Nope.
Here it is. That line, it still gets me. I don't cry as much as I used to over it. It's just powerful.
It still gets me too, and I do think that one has real world implications. Of there's a lot of things in terms of voting, petitions, letting your opinion be known, standing together as a group. That it's really easy to give up and say we can't do this. And it just sounds so naive to go, but if we stand together, and sometimes that is the answer, though, if we stand together, and it's hard to hold on to because it feels naive. And this film is reinforcing that that simple idea has great power, and we shouldn't be turned away from it by cynicism. One of the great, most petty lines in all of Star Wars here.
Oh yeah. he's just a petty little jerk.
Once I fell, so fell the last Skywalker. How do you feel about the fun jokes about he also made himself a cool new outfit that there isn't an action figure of yet? Damn it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he would do.
Yeah.
He'd come back with a black cloak. No. This is my final look here, man. This is the encore. I've come back on stage. To look and feel the biggest. Oh, EMP action here.
And and a little bit of a great, escalation of what we've seen before. And when Rey is going to come forward to block it, and just a great,
Yep.
again, a visual metaphor for what do the Jedi do? Is they hold back the dark side when it reaches out and unbalances things. And this is literally this lightning, this hate reaching out, killing the people, demanding that it's my way and no other way. And a Jedi stops in so that the people can continue and the people can decide.
We just saw the possible death of Nine Numb. Still open. Still open for debate.
Yep.
I choose to believe he's alive.
Hey, I like those old days when we thought everybody get a Disney Plus show. It's like
Yeah.
the resurrection of Nine Numb. Let's go. All right. This moment, right? She could give up, but she chooses connection. And I feel like this is her just reaching out into, the cosmic force, and just like all she's ever wanted is connection, and just all she needs is that pat on the back going, "You're not alone, kid."
Yeah. Love the names. Love the roll call of Jedi.
There you go. Alone, never have you been.
Yeah.
Moves me every time.
Yeah. I think there's something real powerful in all that. And often in our own lives, the help you need is possibly already there. You just got to open yourself up to it.
Mm-hmm. In the heart of a Jedi lies her strength is, I think, another really important line, because I think it's getting back to, like, Rey, who are you? Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Who are,
Yep.
listen to the part of you that saved the Vexus, that saved D-O,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Trust those instincts. That's you. That's really you. Look, the hero's about to have to come back. The villain can't even sense it.
The villain's got to stand up. I like he's like, he sat down. Like, I'm all tired from all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Back on. Little ghost action there.
Yeah.
Look, goes without saying, a little defense going on here from Rey.
Yeah, a little classism going on there from Palpatine of, you are nothing, a scavenger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's him saying, "You're no one. You came from nowhere. I'd disown you."
Yep. And this, not only is it Leia's legacy, but it's this power of the two.
Yep.
Needing both sabers to defeat Palpatine. Brief moment where Palpatine becomes Freddy Krueger. That's fine with me.
Yeah. He chose poorly. There you go. There are you. Now you're all getting squished.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of death in this victory. I will.
Pride's death right here.
Oh yeah,
good
unbelievable.
Good way for him to go out.
Now, how do you feel about the whole? Why didn't Palpatine just stop electrocuting himself?
I've never thought of that in my life. My answer is, he also thinks he can win. He's so surprised by it. He's pushing, Have you ever been trying to open up like an ice cream and you just like, the knife goes flying, the scissors go flying?
Yeah. I don't think he's making sound tactical decisions. I think he's what he just said. You cannot, even with two lightsabers, stand up to the power of a Sith. It's a metaphor for out of control rage.
And Jedi, he's not shooting Vader at that point. He's like, he's lost all control of it. It just happens. It's arcing back into Vader's. My take on that.
Yeah, and people have joked, like in each, of the trilogies, somebody pushes it back and he hits himself with his lightning, and like, that's what happens when you are obsessed with your own power and rage, and also just can't believe that you can make a mistake.
Take all that Force energy, draws from you.
Yep.
Finn connected.
Yep. And I think it's important. Like, you could have just had it that Rey survived that, and so did Ben. And hey,
Sure.
there's some stuff about that that's attractive to me. But I think the point of the story is a Jedi is willing to sacrifice, and she knows when she's stopping Palpatine that she is making this grand sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always a painful, relatable shot of him having a hard time getting where he needs to go in life.
Another, expiration of getting up in the morning.
Mm-hmm. I love this little move here, the way with his weakened energy, he pulls her into an embrace. This little flip-a-doo.
Let me return the favor. Yeah, spends 3 movies, trying to destroy her, trying to deny the connection, deny himself.
Yeah, or just find a way that he can live with the connection without dealing with his own mistakes. And now feels that purity. And I think it is just a total, just a sacrifice of love, right? Saving what you love.
Yeah.
And Daisy Ridley's great, disturbingly dead acting here.
What's the trick? You push your tongue to the top of your mouth.
And I like that. I love the hand touching because it is a literalization of the take my hand. I offered you my hand once.
Yep.
And taking it in a different context.
Ben's there.
And she's so happy to see that person he could be in this great aw shucks Han smile, roguish. This is what it always could have been.
Yep. No, I know JJ at one point said this was a friendly kiss. Maybe he didn't see this part of his movie, but I liked it.
That might have been the direction he gave. I don't feel it's the direction the actors took. Put it that way, in my opinion.
Boom.
Now, for first viewing, did you expect him to go, or did you have a split second where they were going to live happily ever after?
It was similar to even Last Jedi, where you cut back to the island and Luke gets up, and you're like, "Oh, they didn't kill him. I mean, he's dead." I had some of that, like, "Oh, okay, happily ever after" vibes, and then it made sense to me. I don't want to wade into the waters of the the Reylo world too much right now. I get it, but it made sense to me. It made sense to go back to the final moments with Leia and Maz there too.
Yeah. I understand the pull to want to spend more time with this phenomenal character, this phenomenal actor. I understand the pull to want Star Wars to do a longer redemption story where somebody has to deal with what they've done over a longer term. I love all those ideas. I also feel like there was a desire to say, let's make this the Skywalker saga. And it is elegant to me that the bloodline moves into legend, moves into the Force, but the spirit, the idea, what they accomplished, what they stood for goes on is a great mix to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Get our roll call of hero shots on other planets, which I love.
Bespin. Yeah, this idea of the spirit of everybody being together, exactly what Holdo and Leia say of we got to inspire the galaxy, and they clearly have.
Love our Wicket showing up.
I love that they were even going to take over Jakku, which is not an important planet and doesn't have great resources, but the First Order's like, that's ours too.
Yeah. There's some history there. Obviously, we know Galaxy Wreck. And the shot, a lot of people point out Rey's speeder being part of the shot there.
I
I enjoyed.
love that. Yes, that
Yeah.
that her past has now become part of the legend as well.
We did it.
We did it.
I love a good "we did it" montage too.
But with the respectful distance that BB-8 keeps from D-O.
Yes.
I love these shots of Finn just kind of taking it in of like, I believed, I held it, I helped us all hold it together, and this is what we get. Also a great comedy moment here. Kiss? Nah. Okay.
There's our guy.
There's our guy.
There's our guy. Big kiss there.
There's a great kiss.
Now look.
Only a little bit of dialogue here, which is great.
I was a sucker for this moment, and I read the comic in which he had his, and this is it. Got it. I was a sucker for that moment. I had tears flowing here at the first screen.
Yeah, it is, and again, this is a summation of a journey.
Yeah,
you know, and all the heroes need a little moment, need a little victory. The callback to 3PO's very first line, full circle. Now, if that was the Rock version, this is like the healing. You know, let's all get together for the holidays version. It's so beautiful. And the through line of checking, yeah. Oh, and this is one of the most beautiful scenes too.
Yes.
There is not. That is nothing but you know, an older man looking around, happy for everybody, but sad that the people he knew aren't there anymore. And here comes the young generation, and the old generation and the young generation get to lift each other up. You know, I know your trauma. You don't know where you're from. Everybody deserves to know where you're from. Let's right that wrong. It's beautiful. And I love that Finn is the center of this hug.
The connecting glue.
Keeping everybody together.
Some great tears there. Great Finn tears.
Some great tears, and Chewie whooping it up in the background.
Showing off his medal.
Now, there could have been a lot of little bits of dialogue, a lot of little bits of clarity, a lot of little bits of this, but I think, again, it's a desire to be this sort of more of a tone poem, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. Tiny, practical little model, if you've seen in the behind-the-scenes stuff. Love that.
Get the classic Utini, right? So it's in every one of the trilogies. I love that Rey takes the Falcon, so she's carrying kind of these multiple levels of legacy and multiple levels of connection. And as you and I have discussed, we both have the headcanon that this is a part of a tour of many spots in the galaxy that have been meaningful to the past, to the Skywalkers. And she's searching for the right place. And this is meaningful to me because even though Luke, when he was a teen, a young man, wanted to leave home, this was a place, as we now have got to see, where he was loved, where he was watched over, where he had the childhood that Rey didn't get to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Her connecting with it here.
Yep. Feeling those happy memories of sitting at this table, feeling loved and protected. It's not just a place he hated. It was a place he was ready to move on from, but it was a place he was loved. There's so much in this that's just so ritualistic about the sabers. That's very and I love that continues of this kind of peaceful, respectful burial in a place that might not look as important to the galaxy, but is.
Yeah. Red and blue lighting up, yellow. Protector of the flame, so to speak.
And I love I put the past away and I look at the way the future is building it. It makes perfect sense to me that she ignites it.
Yeah. That line being about heroes, too.
Say it. Say it.
Say it.
This is the what she's always wanted, to not be alone. Now she knows she's never going to be alone again,
Right.
even though she's her own person. Mm. Take us home, Johnny Williams.
Yeah. Always a sucker for a good twin sun shot in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. And it brings it all back. And yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that woman with
Mm-hmm.
the Toby, I know there are a lot of strong opinions about that, but there's been no one for so long is such
Mm-hmm.
mythic
Yeah.
writing of like, yeah, of course she's like,
Yeah.
nobody's lived here since the stormtroopers turned everybody into
Yeah.
skeletons. I
Yeah.
get it, it's literal, but it's so like, the Jedi have been gone, the galaxy's been through a dark place. There's been no one for so long, and
Yeah.
now a new hero, a new flame is here. Who are you? Shout your name for the galaxy to hear. It's all.
Yeah.
It's not literal.
Yeah.
It can be literal, but it's so much about the message.
Yeah, that last sequence I know sparked a lot of debate that I don't even want to remix here. It for me was one of those things that if you're sitting down and writing this, like hey, where should we go to end this? Just in the sense of going back to Tatooine, going back to 1977, outside of the story, just made a lot of sense to me to go there, explore ideas there. It works in story, and yeah, let's not forget this is mythic. Her line does speak to what you're talking about. Her question, "Who are you?"
Yeah. And I think the Rise of Skywalker, for me, it's, I love that the title is about the idea of what it is to be a Skywalker, and it's literal, Kylo reascends to the light. Leia has a victory that, foils Palpatine's plans. Luke literally, raising the ship. Anakin appearing, or speaking to her and saying, make the choice that I did, down to the literal Jedi telling her rise, rise, and ending on Skywalker. It's about all of these characters, everybody who has everything that they have done and everything that people have learned from them.
Now, of course, if you're watching on Disney Plus, you have to do that quick switch to the credits.
Yeah.
Not my favorite thing. Not my favorite thing.
No. Well, any reactions watching it again?
It's still one of my favorite to watch. It has all the Star Wars feelings I need, which is not to say any other of the films out there lack anything or any of the shows lack anything. This and Solo come to mind right away when I'm just at this point, 2024, when we record this, where I'm like, over the last 10 years or so, what do I just want to watch when it just gets me into Star Wars? It's this, it's Solo. And this remains that. It's just the way it's shot. I love the way it looks. I love the energy. Like I said, the banter and the big sweeping things, man. I need those kind of song lyrics that are just singing directly at you sometimes. Sometimes I want the introspection. Sometimes I want the philosophies and themes to debate. And this movie has a lot, I know, but I think it's just delivered to me in a direct manner that I gravitate towards.
Yeah.
Always.
No, I'm with you. And for me, it isn't a battle between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, because on the things that matter most, the characters' arcs, what this trilogy is about, what people are struggling with, again and again throughout all three films, characters are confronted with the past. They can't get away from the past. And how do you respond to it? Do you rage at it and try to end it? Do you try to say, because what happened in the past, I don't have a choice anymore, I don't have agency? Or do you take what was good from the past and carry it forward and learn from what was bad and have a healthy relationship with what the past is? Character after character, story arc after story arc is reinforcing that. So while there are just like some tonal differences, some style differences, some surface level, we're going to go here, stuff, the heart of it is so aligned for me that I like to really be able to appreciate them both. I want to go into murky depths and question myself and question things. And, there's some days where like, Yeah, I want to watch existential dread Luke have a hard time on a beautiful island. Last Jedi's great. In those moments where I'm down,
Mm-hmm.
I need this message that is the sort of
Yeah.
the audacity of clinging to these clear, vital.
Yep.
Choose the light, choose togetherness, choose empathy. It's
Yep.
so clear in that message that for me, when people dislike it, I always want to respect that because it's a matter of taste. But the ideas are so clear and they're so heartfelt and they're so beautiful to me. Of how many of us have been Poe and needed that moment where Lando swoops in and says, "There's more of us."
Mm-hmm.
How many of us have been Rey and need to hear Yoda saying, "Alone, never have you been."
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is powerful to me, and it is the kind of direct, powerful that the whole franchise started with Star Wars in 1977.
I absolutely agree, and and looking back years later, I mean, I think one of the reasons I like revisiting this film every now and then is it got exhausting. It's exhausting being around this stuff. I get it, and that's the negative approach to it. But I just like going back to the content. I like going back to the text, and pulling my joy from that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and some of the surface level stuff that you and I both talked about and enjoyed. There's a lot of great jokes. There's that great,
it's funny moves.
Star Wars has been that since 1977. That I call it the mix of the absurd and the profound, but it could be the fun and the deep, whatever you want to talk about it. It's like, it's one of the things that Lucas did is he kind of wanted to have his cake and eat it too. It's like, I want to have a real fun, rollicking adventure with sarcastic rogues and laser swords and stuff blowing up and hot rods in space. But I also want it to be deep and calm and soothing. It's like there's a tension there, and there will always be that in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I feel like Rise of Skywalker really leaned into that tension where it's fun, it moves fast, the camera's whipping around, people are making jokes, but it's also about like these deep, profound ideas of togetherness and belonging, and
indeed,
and all it's having its cake and eating it too. And that's the heart of Star Wars to me.
It's a lot of cake. It's a big piece, and I think part of the discussion that can't be lost is just this film with the change in directors and loss of Carrie Fisher, and then I think there's just some takes around the movie that are troubling to me and don't really, aren't realistic in terms of, J.J. Abrams did not go into Reddit and look at what to do, but they just try to take it home in their own kind of way. And I do believe, and we have some older episodes up there on ForceCenter if you want to dig in the podcast feed, if you're just kind of new to this space. We talked about the connections in this film to 8 and beyond. We talked about some of the big Star Wars George Lucas ideas in this film. I think they're all present. Doesn't mean they're always going to hit for you. Doesn't mean they're always going to be your favorite, but they're very present. And I have, some of his interviews is one of the cases where you and I both kind of feel like maybe you don't have to explain everything and don't give interviews. But I thought Chris Terrio had a great understanding of a lot of big Star Wars themes and ideas, and really put a lot of love into this under some tough circumstances. Again, one day there'll be some great behind the scenes books to read, I'm sure, and we've heard some of the stories and whatnot. But the end result is what I like to engage with.
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm waiting for the director or screenwriter who does a weekend after interview, sort of refuting criticisms where it changes anyone's mind.
Right.
Which is part of the reason that I before the film came out, J.J. Abrams said, I went back to basics. It's about family and hope. And that's about all he said. And then when the film came out and it got ravaged in some corners, he said, well, if you don't like it, you're correct. Because your opinion is valid. Like, that's a man who does good interviews, in my opinion.
Big finish. And look, at this point, only Mando is out. The season hadn't even ended yet. All the stuff we've enjoyed since. It's amazing what we've enjoyed since. So many Star Wars things to choose from. There is the Bad Robot logo coming up here. Well, that is it for us. We're wrapping up. We did it. Thank you all to all of you out there who made it possible, who have not only been supporting us on Patreon all this time, those that have just joined, and those that participated in the selection of this film.
Yeah, and anybody who chose not necessarily to join Patreon, but to just buy this a la carte because they're throwing it up on the shop. Thank you for that support as well.
Absolutely. More in the future. We'll let you know when. It's always fun to sit and watch Star Wars with you, sir. And instead of just talking about it, talking and watching.
Absolutely, and thank you for keeping it going while I was dealing with an inspection of the caulking in my bathtub.
There you go. Real world and Star Wars together again. We'll see you next time, friends. Thanks for watching and hanging out and listening to us here on ForceCenter.